Hey everyone, welcome to the Pan African Exchange. I'm Akintuse Kumasi, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that's very important, our health. Yes, our health. As Africans, we really need to change the game when it comes to taking care of ourselves. So, yesterday, what brought this to mind to me is I was watching a video with my little girl on YouTube Kids. She watches YouTube Kids a lot. I mean, not every day, not almost every day, not I mean hourly wise, but she's a regular viewer of YouTube Kids, and we put it up on the big screen. We used to have it on the pad, but pads are not really good for the children, so now I got to watch it on the TV in the living room so everybody can see what she's watching. So we're watching this last night, and there was a scene where there was a white girl with her mom, and she was getting ready to go to school, and she was making a calculator, and the calculator was a graham cracker, and then she used a long piece of chocolate as the screen, and then she sprinkled a few colored sprinklets to look like numbers on the screen, and then in the end she added M&Ms, like would look like M&Ms, little chocolate buttons, on the calculator. There was quite a few of them, probably about 9 to 12 chocolate buttons on that calculator. And my daughter was really into it. And the little girl started going to school, and right before she left the house, she started eating the calculator. And immediately I shut it down. I just didn't like what was going on. I was like, wait a second. She's eating a calculator she made. And then I started putting everything together. And I started realizing that the sugar industries are behind this. The flour industries are behind this. Powerful industries. These are some of the most powerful industries in the world, sugar and agribusiness. They're the most influential economic and political sectors in the world. They have economic power, they have political influence, so they're constantly lobbying government. They're controlling food labeling laws, farm subsidies, trade agreements, environmental regulations, water rights, land ownership. They own a lot of land. Research and technology, genetically improved seeds, precision agriculture. Everything they do is about making money. And they've been powerful for so long, to the point to where they're even influencing children's videos. Every often you see my daughter would watch, and I noticed this in the past, and trust me, I've blocked every channel now. You would see them making cookies and creams and cupcakes and ice creams and all the sugary things that they want the kids to eat. So they're basically trying to get your kids on the sugar, flour, the junk right away. I also went ahead in the process, I deleted all Eurocentric videos. My daughter watches primarily Japanese and Afrocentric, but I wanted to put more Afrocentric in there, so I found some more videos out of Africa for children that I will put in the link on this video so you can see it. I'm going to show you one channel that we started watching last night, right after I got rid of it. Now keep in mind, when I deleted that channel, my daughter was crying. I mean, she had tears coming out her eyes. She really wanted to see the rest of that video because that's what she's been watching from time to time. So she got hooked on that. Well, I unhooked it. And I'm here to tell you guys, we need to release our children from the Eurocentric learning process, the Eurocentric attitude. Now, I'm not saying that European culture is a bad culture. I'm not negative Euro culture. I am pro-African culture. And I think that people will mistake this for us saying, oh, we don't want them learning anything about Europe. We don't want them getting into that. Well, look, I, being a black American who no longer lives in America, I grew up in a Eurocentric environment, has all black Americans and blacks living in Europe. We grew up under the Eurocentric hold. We've been taught from birth all about Europe. about having the Eurocentric attitude, looking at things from a European point of view, eating like Europeans, which is not healthy for us as Africans, which I'm going to get into that. It causes disease. It shortens our life. It takes our beauty away from us. That's what it does. And a lot of it is backed by these powerful companies, these sugar agribusiness. They got their hands in everything, even to the point to where when you see a movie, you see people up there eating all these sugary stuff, you know, and they always make sure they throw it in there. The dairy companies, they always throw in the milk, the cheese. The beef companies always throwing in the steaks, the pork companies. They constantly throw in their food items, which is not necessarily healthy for us as Africans. They constantly put them out all the time. They flush it down your throat. And that's why you see so many people in America overweight. America is the sickest country on earth right now. And a lot of our people in America are very sick and are dying. Now, I've been doing family research since 2007. In family research, you come across death certificates. It's all on Ancestry. That's how you help put things together. A lot of the death certificates I found on my family throughout the years, cardiac arrest, they died of this, they died of that. It all has to do with the lack of nutrition, with poor nutritional attitudes. European nutrition, if you will. European, I want to call it, we are living in a processed culture. Just like the processed foods that a lot of people eat. We're living in a processed culture. We're basically living in a processed world. Even in Africa, a lot of African countries are Eurocentric with the Christianity thrown on them. You see? So today I'm going to talk about our health, how we can improve our health. And I'm also going to talk about myself, because what better way to prove, to show you an example, give you an example, than to talk about my own experience as well. See? So I've been spending most of the morning deleting, blocking off these channels that I don't want my daughter to see anymore. I blocked off the Disney Channel thing. Now, once in a while, yeah, she can watch the Disney. Like I said, I'm not against European culture. What I'm going to do is to promote our culture to our children, because I am the parent. Nobody else is parenting my child. I am. I'm the parent, me and my wife, of my son and my daughter, who are bicultural, bilingual. So they're living in Japan. They're learning all about Japanese culture, but they also need to learn about their African side too, which is what they are. And now that they live outside of America, it's focusing on Africa, African culture. And trust me, as I look through these channels, as I pick out these channels from Africa that has a lot of child content, because I'm looking for children YouTube channels out of Africa, I am also scrutinizing them too. I don't want no religion in there. I don't want anything Eurocentric. I want coming from an African perspective to educate my children on their African heritage. So that way I can sit there and I can do something else as my daughter watches a YouTube channel on YouTube Kids, and I know that she's getting the right information that I want her to get. My son, at 13 years old, he's beyond that, but he's very well aware now more of his African heritage too. And he's into it. Trust me. Him and I talk about it every day. And he knows the poisons out there. He knows how powerful the sugar companies are and the flour companies and what they're doing to try to put this in our children's mind that eating cupcakes and cake and cookies is a normal thing, which is not. Now, I'm going to show you a clip here. And like I said, I am going to put up the channels for you to watch. Now, this is a channel called Ubongo Kids out of Africa. And I want you to watch the first few minutes of this story they're talking about. But like I said, this is coming from Ubongo Kids. And then I'm going to talk about this after that. All right? So let's go ahead and watch this.
need to get to the hospital, fast.
What's wrong with Mama?
The doctor says you can visit your mother at the hospital this afternoon. I'm going to pick up Mwenda from your aunt. Then we can go together. Be ready in 1 hour.
Let's bring her something to make her feel better, like a book to read or food. Mama loves chips. Let's get her chips with extra salt.
No, let's bring her ice cream. That's my favorite.
It's not for you, Baraka. It's for Mama.
Well, if I think Mama will love ice cream and soda.
Do what you want. I'm bringing Mama chips. With extra salt. We'll soon see what food Mama likes best. Don't worry, Mama. We've got everything you need to help you get better. Look at all this food.
Sweet green soda and yummy ice cream.
Keep that junk food away from your mother. These are exactly the types of food that have made her sick in the first place.
They did?
Yes, I'm afraid your mother has diabetes.
And diabetes is caused by too much sugar, right, doctor?
Yes, too much sugar in the bloodstream. When you consume too much sugar, through sugary foods, sodas, and even adding lots of sugar to your tea, your body has to work twice as hard to control the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. After a while, your body can't control it anymore, and that's when you develop diabetes. There are some people whose bodies naturally can't control their blood sugar, but for most people, it's just a case of a bad diet and not enough exercise that causes diabetes.
It's okay, Mama. I brought you this.
This food is not good for your mother either.
But doctor, you said diabetes was caused by eating too much sugar. Chips are salty, not sweet. And besides, potatoes are part of the carbohydrate food group. They give us energy.
That's true. The body does need some carbohydrates to get energy. But when potatoes become chips, they are fried in a lot of fat and then covered in salt. The body needs only a small amount of salt and fat.
Because if you eat too much of them, you get fat.
Yes, that can happen. But it also harms your body on the inside. When you eat too much fat, your body produces extra cholesterol.
Doctor, you're needed.
Looks like I've got some work to do. Mrs. Chimo, I'm sure you're in safe hands with this curious young man.
I promise we won't let Mama have too much sugar, salt, or fat from now on, and only a little carbohydrate.
Mama, you're going to have the healthiest diet on offer.
A healthy diet makes a happy body.
Okay, so I like that video a lot. Funny thing is, when we were watching, my son was there with me, with my daughter, and my son was like, oh my goodness, they're getting all this bad food at first, in the first part. And I was about 2 seconds from, okay, I don't want to watch that channel. But I let it play out. They got to the hospital, and as you can see, the scene there was beautiful. Now, later on in the video, they're going to meet up with the man who moved back to the farm. His health got better because he started eating more vegetables. He's going to show the guys, basically teach them. This is a video about self-control, is what it is. I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat the things that you like. I'm just saying that you have to have self-control and you need to be aware of your health. Now, let me talk about myself because, I want to be as real as I can here on a Pan-African exchange. because that's what this channel is about. It is about the absolute truth in our culture, the diaspora in Africa. Now, I am a 64-year-old man, black man, as you know. And I told you I'm 88% African descent. Or I'm comprised of 88% African, however you want to put it. Now, my history, my eating history is a long one where I didn't usually have to worry about my health. I've never been fat. I always was, pretty much I've always been in shape. I always worked out. I was always doing something. But I wasn't always eating healthy. And so I know when I was in the Air Force, I was drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, a lot. I would drink Cokes like almost all day, more than water. And one year I took a class when I was in college, because I took college class. I went to college when I was in the Air Force too. And my teacher told us that Coke actually melts your bones. And what happens when your body gets cremated, then there's a hard bone in the back of your neck that remains. Well, people that have drink Coke over the years, that even it melts down. And from that very moment, I stopped drinking all sodas. I just cut it all off. Everything, I cut it off. Occasionally, years later, my wife said when she met me, we went to the movie theater, I would get some Dr. Pepper. I still don't remember this, but she said I would. I don't think I did, but she told me I was. Because I was so adamant about not drinking soda. Maybe I did just to get something to drink. But I have shunned myself off of soda. I haven't drank soda in years. And so that was one big thing. Soda. Let me just tell you how much sugar does one bottle of Coke have? Okay. Let's see. It is in one bottle of Coca-Cola. 16 ounce. Right? Because that's what their sizes are. So it has a lot of sugar, trust me. A lot of sugar. A 16 fluid ounce, which is 473 milliliters bottle of regular Coke, contains 52 grams of sugar. And it's 190 calories. And it has 52 grams of carbs. The 52 grams of sugar, that's about 13 teaspoons of sugar. 1 teaspoon equals 4 grams. It contains more added sugar than the American Heart Association recommends for an entire day. Right? So, and then even then the sugar companies probably said, oh, yeah, we can have a level of sugar. It's probably, you don't even need to have that. It probably contains way too much sugar, more than what the American Heart Association says. But because the sugar company is so powerful, they say, oh, okay, just tell them that this is okay because we got to have sugar in our stuff. We got to be able to sell it. When actually, truth be told, no processed sugar is good for the body. Now, you do have people out there with, say, zero Coke, right? So if I put in zero sugar Coke, right? If I put that in, even if it says zero sugar, it still has the sugars. So they say that Coca-Cola zero sugar is 0 grams added sugar, 0 calories, this, that, the other. Now, instead of sugar, it is sweetened with artificial sweeteners. The exact sweeteners vary by country. In Japan, where I live, is typically what they call aspartame and ace-sulfamine potassium, ACE-K. United States is typically aspartame and the same thing, ACE-K as well. Now, for blood sugar, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar generally does not raise blood glucose because it contains no sugar or digestible carbohydrates. However, it is still an ultra-processed beverage. It's acidic, so frequent consumption may contribute to tooth enamel erosion, and it is best enjoyed in moderation. Now, given anyone's interest in managing their blood sugar, Coke Zero is a much better choice than Coke, but still, I don't recommend it because it will mess up it will eat away at your tooth enamel. And it's still a processed drink. You should be drinking a large amount of water. You can get that water app, you can ask your doctor based on your height, your weight, how much water you should take in, because you don't want to overdrink, of course. But you need to make sure that you drink plenty of water. Every morning for me, when I wake up now, I drink, first thing is I drink water before I do anything. I'll drink about 50 milliliters of water. And then during breakfast, I'll drink about 500 milliliters of lemon water. I love lemon water. I squeeze a couple slices of lemon in the water, throw some ice in there, pour water in there. I love it. Drinks. It really helps me out. My son tried it for the first time today. He loved it. He said it helped him in his basketball practice. So that's what I do. But getting back to myself. So over the years. So once I got off of that, I started paying attention to reading food labels and whatnot. But when I got married to my wife, we would go out and we were so poor. We still would watch movies a lot. I have a habit of drinking black coffee and eating a pastry with my black coffee pastries. We love bakeries. We would always find these good bakeries in Seattle area where we lived. And now in Japan, we'll find great bakeries because we have a lot of great bakeries around here. And they sell a lot of breads. And, we were buying that. Now, once I got on the health kick, once I got serious about my health, which is about 10 years ago, when my doc told me, hey, you're a pre-diabetic. I didn't know a lot about what diabetes does to the body. I just thought, okay, you got sugar in your blood. Just don't eat sugar, you'll be okay. But diabetes, I'm going to tell you what it causes, guys. I'm going to tell you what it causes. Okay? And once I learned this a couple years ago, I started to panic. Now, there's two types of diabetes. And I don't have to explain everything to you. You, trust me, you know somebody in your family. Your mother got it. I know my mother has diabetes. My daddy was pre-diabetic because he kept taking metformin, which prevented him from being, diabetic, but because he drank a lot and he liked his habits. He didn't eat a lot of vegetables, and my daddy had a sweet tooth. Type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is what I was diagnosed with a couple years ago when I took my annual physical that we have to do in Japan, and I came up with a 6.6 A1C for pretty much the first time in my life. Before that, in the States, I was borderline 6.4, 6.5, but that 2 years ago woke me up, if you will, when I came back with the 6.6. My kidney was numbers weren't good. My cholesterol was higher. My blood pressure was higher than it needed to be. Even though, like I said, I was in shape, I was walking around doing the things that I needed to do, but I wasn't necessarily eating right. And even though I would look at the label and say, okay, just make sure it doesn't have sugar in it, make sure it doesn't have in it, I didn't realize that a lot of the foods I was eating, because I love sweet potatoes, white potatoes, rice, I did cut down on the rice. But what that does is when it gets in your body, it turns into glucose and it raises your blood sugar, is what those foods do. Starches do. I've since cut those all out. So here's the risk of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which I never knew about all the risks. Excess body weight, especially around the abs. Increasing age. And then what it does is it also gives you disease of the pancreas. It increases, it gives you blurred vision, fatigue, increased hunger, frequent urination, slow healing of cuts and sores. You can get heart disease off of it. A lot of bad things can come from diabetes. A lot of bad. It messes up your liver, your kidneys. I looked at it and I studied it and I realized that diabetes breaks your body down. You got to get your foot amputated once in a while, toes. I know my mother's husband is big time diabetic. He just got his toes cut off a few years back. I don't know what he's doing now. There's a lot of things that diabetes does to our bodies that I never knew about until 2 years ago when I started studying it. So from 2 years ago, I remember walking around Tokyo. I found this out in September. One of my good friends got here in Tokyo, in Japan. He was here for a month. And he wanted to eat everything. He wanted to try it all. The yakinikus. And at the time I had just read this book. I was reading this book called Vegetation Over Medication by Dr. Bobby Price. I think it's Bobby Price. And, he was talking about the advantages of being vegan. Now, I'm not vegan. I was trying to be vegan. I was really being strict about it. I didn't want to eat no meat. But I had to eat it with my friend because my friend wanted to eat all this stuff. So I went eat it with him. I remember walking around Tokyo. I was bloated all the time because we were eating a lot of sodium, like ramen and whatnot. I usually only eat ramen like once every few months. I ate 3 ramen shops, and I noticed how bloated I was. I was like, man, I felt bloated. I hated feeling bloated. It was a sodium in me that was making me feel bloated. So I got back home. I tried to calm that down, but I had to go back and see my friend again in Fukuoka. Once again, I had to watch what I was eating, but I didn't want to mess up the trip for him, so I would go out eat with him. And then I went back home again, and I had one more leg where we went to Osaka. I met him up with Osaka and Tokyo. And once again, he was eating a lot of different things. And I was trying to scale down the foods I was eating, the sugars and whatnot. I remember my friend we were in Yokohama. He ordered 2 pieces of apple pie, which has a lot of sugar in it. And I was like, ooh, no, I can't eat any of that. So I didn't order nothing. I just walked around while he ate it. Came back, got a little coffee. I mean, it was very difficult at the time because I had to break away to really start to settle down with my diet. My wife wasn't always on board. She was like, well, wait, what can't you eat? It was bothering her because she's a good cook. She's watching out for my health, but she felt like I was being too picky. So I really didn't have anybody on board. I got in an argument with her and my mother-in-law one day at the dining table because they thought that I was affecting my son's eating habits because they said he was too skinny. They said they didn't want me putting my thing on him. Pretty much they wasn't concerned about me. They was more concerned about my kids, which is okay. So I just went upstairs. I said, okay, I got to get out of this conversation for now because, you need to break away and you need to look at yourself and you need to say, look, you are always going to be the number one advocate for good health for yourself. People around you may not always be on board. My wife is on board now. She does a lot of things. She orders me a lot of healthy foods now. She makes sure that I don't eat the bad things. It took a few years, but now she's on board 100% with my health. Now, what that does is this. I try to not give my children things that I know is bad for their health. Like I remember when we got in the argument with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law eats anything. She'll put anything in her body because she doesn't have any problems. She's at 74 years old. She's like, okay, well, I can eat what I want. But when I tried to explain to her that time that, hey, my daughter was eating gratin at a restaurant, putting a lot of cheese in her body that I didn't want. I think it was a misunderstanding. I wasn't trying to say that I didn't want her to go out to restaurants, but all I was saying was, look, I don't feel comfortable putting foods in my kid's body that I know is not good for the body. But she took it as, oh, well, I guess we just can't go to restaurants, and that's not what I want. Because in Japan, they tend to get defensive before they understand what you're trying to say. That's just the way it works in Japan. So I had that conversation, but I had to get out of that conversation because I didn't want that to go south on me than it was. So I got out of it. But basically what I'm saying is, when you come to realize that you need to start really taking care of your health, a lot of times, a lot of people don't necessarily become healthy because the people around them are not on board. And as a black person, when you go around your people and you go to the festivities and your holiday seasons, you hang out, people always want to eat, and they don't care about their health. They're gaining all this weight. And you go over there, and if you don't eat this macaroni and cheese and these pork chops and all this, they're looking at you like, what's wrong? You don't like my cooking? What's wrong? You don't like my cooking? Big Mama's all up in your face. What's wrong? But you're trying to keep yourself healthy. I mean, you're trying to maintain good health. See? So all those foods that we come in contact with, trust me, in America, give you an idea what's going on here. So the processed foods, right? Did you know that 68 to 74% of packaged foods and beverages in U.S. supermarkets contain added caloric or low-calorie sweeteners, according to an analysis of grocery products? So basically, you can't run away. You can't get away from sugar. You see people eating Doritos, all these snacks. If you can gotta open up a package, it's bad for you already. Cookies, cakes, cupcakes, it's all delicious. When you're growing up in high school, like when I was growing up in high school, Tasty Cake and Philly, Wise potato chips, all that was good, but it's got oil, salt, sugar. It was all, you tasted good, but it wasn't good for the body. But people just get addicted to it. You get addicted to the oil, you get addicted to the salt, the sodium, you get addicted to the sugars, you get addicted to the creams. You just get addicted to all this stuff, and before you know it, you're bloated. you're big. When I was younger, in America, growing up, and I remember being a little 14-year-old dude, and you know, I'm walking around the neighborhood, man. This is in the 70s, like, and I'm like, the sisters was like, giant. You look at them in them jeans, you're like, oh my God, busting out them jeans. They had perfect bodies. They were the standard of beauty. You know, because with all intents and purposes, the average African woman's body, they don't normally have larger breasts. They just have perfect breasts and perfect asses. You know? Yeah, when you get older, it gets bigger because you're older. But it doesn't have to be. But, you know, it just depends on what you're putting in your body. But when I was growing up, man, everybody was skinny. And the sisters had the bodies, man. It's like, oh, man, you get whiplash from just walking, looking. Because, you know, when you're at 13, 14 years old, you're starting to come into that age where you're noticing a woman's body. In school, all the girls, by that time, they had breasts. And I remember literally for a solid year from 13 to 14 years old, all I was looking at was breast all day. I was like, oh my goodness. I just was staring at them because that was part of the anatomy of me growing up as a male. I'm like, man, I just kept looking at breast all day, you know. And you get the hard on that comes up, and your teacher wants you to stand in the middle of the class, and you're like, oh man, I can't stand up because these girls are sitting around with these tight jeans on, and you can't stand up in the middle of class and talk for the class because you know you ain't gonna be able to control yourself. When the wind blows, you're like, oh my God, I gotta go. You know, that's how it was. Now let's fast forward to 2026. 80% of black women in America are overweight. 80%, maybe even 85 now. And you see a lot of our sisters, and the body shapes are so weird. It's like, how did you get that kind of shape? You know, they're wearing spandex, or they're wearing like these tight clothes, or you see them at the airport showing up with a whole flower outfit, a shirt, a top, spandex type with spandex flower pants on, just looking like I don't know what. And you know, they don't smell as good, and they're sweating, and it's just like, what the hell happened? And I'm looking, I'm like, I can't believe this. You know, the hair is purple, you know, the tattoos everywhere. And it's like, what happened to our beautiful black women? They were the standard of beauty. What happened? And then you see a lot of black men who are overweight. So if I put what percentage of black men are overweight, right, in the States? Okay, so let's see. If I go in this route, so the percentage of black men that are overweight in the United States, okay? So they're saying that this is bad too, about 78 to 80% of I don't know why they keep putting this non-Hispanic black men. Look, Hispanic is black too. I don't know why y'all keep putting this non-Hispanic. This is bullshit. But 70-80% of black men, 78 to 80% are overweight. 78 to 80% of brothers. Because when I was younger too, I didn't see any big brothers that many. You saw a few brothers, you know, that had the overweight. Okay, we get it. They like to eat corn chips all the time. He likes to pack his mouth for now and laters. Okay, I get that. There was a lot of brothers that was eating a lot when I was growing up, but there weren't that many. But now, 78 to 80% of the brothers overweight. See? Now, like I said, I'm not up here trying to dish overweight people. I'm just telling you, as black people, we need to get control of our nutrition. We need to get control of our bodies. Sisters need to get control of their bodies. You need to get that 70-80% down to 20% and then to 0. You need to get back to being the black and beautiful person that you are. And that's why I want you to start somewhere. You need to start with your own children, your young children. My daughter is 4. She'll be 5 here in a few months. My son's 13. He's as skinny as a giraffe. But he's got the abs, he's got the muscles, but he's a skinny, tall dude. He's almost as tall as me. I'm skinny and tall. See? And I've lost weight since I've really gotten, because I've stopped eating white bread. I mean, and I'll get into that. A lot of times when you think you're eating the food, it's not the right food, but I'll get back in that. But what I'm saying is, I want you to get into your children. If you can't get yourself right yet, start working on your children first. And then you will notice that you yourself will start to eat right and will start to be right. You don't need to be buying no Frito-Lays. When you go into a supermarket, most of that shit, and I wasn't going to use these kind of words on the Pan-African Exchange, but I got to use this, guys. You know, you guys are African. You know how we talk when we get compassionate about shit. All right? I might as well, look, I told you, my first video, I was kind of nervous. I got to be myself, guys, because this is about our people, brothers and sisters. I'm talking to you guys. If you were sitting at a table with me, I'm going to tell you straight up the truth about yourself, about our people. I'm not here to blow smoke up nobody's ass. I am here to tell you the truth. And the fact of the matter is, 80% of us in America that live in America are overweight. 80%. 80% of our beautiful people are overweight. 80. Because we have no self-control. As I put the earlier video up, we have no self-control. We don't, God. We have no self-control. And we have to get that self-control. Now, I'm going to tell you about self-control for a minute. I served in the United States Air Force for 12 years. I did a total of 12 years and 8 months. I spent 8 months in the Air Guard between my time in the service. But when I was in the service, I would, every weekend, you know, when we were off, you know, I lived in the dorms. Little young 17-year-old Air Force buck. And I'd go to, you know, talk to different guys in the dorms. And, you know, there weren't that many black men working in my career field. You know, I did a very dangerous job. I loaded munitions on aircraft, tested the pods that the munitions loaded on, checked the aircraft cockpit, tested everything. You know, that was my job. So I'd go to their room sometimes, say what's up, and you see 2 or 3 white guys in there, and they have like a case of beer is 24 cans of beer. They have 3 or 4 cases, and by Sunday, the cases are all done. And then I'd see them at parties just eating and eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, and barbecues, eating and eating and eating and eating. And I noticed they didn't have any self-control. They had no self-control. So even myself, one day, I was stationed in Korea. I just turned 18-year-old buck. And I remember being at this party, and we were drinking rum and coke. At the time, I was a rum and coke man, so I thought. And I drank so much rum and coke, I was passed out on the floor. And I remember these guys sitting around, these guys all looking at me, and I'm like, whoa, what's up? And I had to get up, and I was so drunk because I had no self-control. And you know what I told myself? I said, from that point on, I never got that drunk again. And I just stopped drinking rum and coke. I just stopped drinking altogether at that time. Now, if I drink, I'll drink a little sake, a little wine, but a little beer, but that's about it. It's very few and far between. But from that point, I told myself, this is ridiculous. This is not self-control. So that was probably the first instance of me trying to get my eat healthy or be healthy, even though I didn't eat healthy for years beyond that. But that was my first point. So what I'm saying to you is this. You have to practice self-control, and you have to start off with your children. You love your children. You want to see your children eat right, right? So look at everything. And it's so simple, guys. What I use now and what I started using is I have a Chat GPT account. I mean, I think in Japan it's 3,000 yen a month. I don't know what it costs these days. But all I do is I hold up my phone on Chat GPT. I click the plus. I click camera. I take a picture of the ingredients of what I'm interested in eating. Chat GPT will hit me back and say, well, being as though you're concerned about your blood sugar, here's the positives about this. And they may recommend the particular product I'm interested in, or they may say, here's some pros, but here's some cons. Look at the cons. Even if it's only 2, look at the cons. And if it says it's like, for example, it'll say, yes, this has less sugar, but it's still a cookie. And then you'll see the cons. Guess what? I'm not eating it. So a couple months ago, because I every 2 months I go to my diabetes clinic here in Japan. And what they do is they draw blood, and I think twice a year they'll draw urine. Then they'll test my urine out. And they draw blood, And what I like about them is they show me all my numbers, my kidney numbers, my cholesterol numbers, my blood sugar numbers. I check my blood sugar every morning, but they'll show me numbers, and I think they have they're a bit uptick on their spike, maybe for business. I don't know. I know because yesterday my blood sugar was at 102, but I went there and they said it was 129. Okay. For a diabetic, I'm pre-diabetic, but I'm no longer diabetic. I'm pre-diabetic. But for a person that is concerned about diabetes, if they have diabetes, the normal blood sugar, fasting blood sugar, is between 100 and 130. They don't want you a day over 130. Now, normal is 70 or 99. Right now, my average blood sugar that I've been testing out for the past week is 101, which is, I get 90s a lot, but I get like the highest I got was 112. And then yesterday they said I had 129. But I nixed that because I tested myself, I was on 102, right? So anyway, I like them because they can check all my stuff. But a couple months ago, I was just eating like I wanted to eat. Because when I'm on metformin, so I said, okay, let me test it. Because you'll test it. Because metformin, what it does is it helps break down it. So let me tell you what it does. Okay, so you'll know. So metformin is what they call it. What does metformin do? Okay, so metformin, what it does, okay, it's the most commonly prescribed medication for type 2 diabetes, right? It helps lower blood sugar without directly causing the pancreas to release more insulin. Because that's the problem you're having with your body. Your pancreas is fighting with the blood sugar thing, right? So it works in 3 different main ways. Reduces sugar production by the liver. The liver normally releases glucose into the bloodstream, especially overnight. Metformin decreases the glucose production. It makes the body more sensitive to insulin. It helps muscle and other tissues use insulin more effectively. This allows glucose to move from the blood into the cells more efficiently. Then it slightly reduces glucose absorption from the intestines. Less glucose enters the bloodstream after meals. Okay. Benefits: lowers the blood sugar and your HbA1c, which my A1c was lowered, by the way, yesterday. Usually does not cause weight gain. Some people lose a small amount of weight, has a low risk of causing low blood sugar, because sometimes if the dose is too high, it'll give you low blood sugar. And it may reduce the risk of heart-related complications in some people with type 2. And then they got their side effects: diarrhea, nausea, stomach upset, bloating. Well, I don't have any side effects. See, and I've been taking metformin for 2 years now. At first, I didn't want to take anything. I'm not a drug kind of guy, because a lot of times what will happen is you'll show up at a diabetes clinic and they'll put you on this. If that don't work because you're not changing your diet, then they'll say, okay, well, we recommend this. The next you know, within 6 months, you're walking out there with a bag full of pills. And that's not what I like. In fact, my plan is to eventually get off metformin as I process and clean up my body. Because right now I'm in the position where I'm cleaning my body. So 2 months ago, I'm eating all this shit, a lot of bread, and sometimes I'm eating rice, sometimes eating potatoes, even though it's not good for me. And I went to the clinic, and my A1C went up to 6.3, my blood sugar was 135, and my guy's looking at me like, whoa, and I gained about a kilogram. He's like, whoa. So when I got that day, I left the clinic, and I was so determined to cut shit out. Bam, I cut the bread out. I eat this base bread stuff, which is all 100% whole wheat. Because a lot of times in Japan where I live, it'll say whole wheat bread, but it's not really all whole wheat. It's something, it's different. It's not, it's got some wheat, processed wheat, you know what I'm saying? It's not 100% whole wheat. So I started paying attention to that and I stopped eating that shit. And I noticed this time, when I went to my clinic yesterday, bam, my A1C dropped down to 6.1. My blood sugar dropped down. I got an annual physical coming up the first of next month. I know my number's going to be even better for that. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm constantly getting my stuff under control. Now here's the problem that you run into when you start to get into that. When you seriously start to concern yourself about what you're eating. What you'll notice is that you'll be like, okay, well, I stopped eating this, stop eating that. Why is my blood sugar up? Why is this happening still? Because you're eating stuff that still is causing your blood sugar to spike. So what you do is like I said, I do my chat GPT, whatever I'm going to eat, I check. Even fruit. Because I didn't realize that fruit also raises your blood sugar, certain fruit, right? Like, for example, pineapple, watermelon. A lot of us blacks love watermelon, right? Watermelon is high in glucose. So fructose and glucose. So what it does is it spikes the blood sugar. So you know it has to see fiber is good for the body because it keeps the blood sugar under control. But that watermelon can and certain fruits can really spike your shit up. So like one day I was gonna eat, I eat this organic oatmeal, right? Like oats. Like I'll pour it in my cereal and with milk. Like I use almond milk or soy milk. But what I was doing, I was cutting up pieces of dates, like about 3 or 4 dates, sometimes 5 dates. Well, I found out dates were raising my blood sugar. So now got it down to 1 date or 1 fig. See, they were spiking my blood sugar and I didn't know it. So there's certain foods that you think, okay, I'm healthy, it's not processed, but it's still spiking your blood sugar. So what I recommend is you check with ChatGPT or whatever app you want to use and you ask questions. You start asking. And don't just read the labels. A lot of times, especially where you live in America, labels don't mean shit. The sugar companies and the agribusiness, they got that all under control. They only want the doctor or the labels to say certain things. These people got their hands in everything. Trust me. They got everything under control for them. They care only about them. See? They don't care about nothing. So now let me tell you, for example, what sugar is found in, where sugar is found in these products where you may not expect it. Bread, white bread, pasta sauces, salad dressings, yogurt, breakfast cereals are really bad, crackers, granola bars, frozen meals, ketchup and even barbecue sauce, plant-based milks. Sugar is practically in so much shit that you have to really start looking at it before you put it on your food. Some people like to eat their hot dog with a shitload of mustard and ketchup. Well, that's got sugar in it. You got to check that. And in America, here's a trick that they do to you. Here's what they do. Okay? Let's see. Let me tell you this, ask this question. Let's see. Okay. Watch this. Sorry, guys. I just wanted you to know this. Because this is big. All right. Because when we lived in the United States, man, we were, in the United States, the term organic is regulated by the United States Department of Agriculture, which is bullshit because they're getting paid by the agribusiness and the sugar companies and all this, right? Under the National Organic Program. There are 4 different labeling categories. 100% organic of ingredients, including water and salt, must be certified organic. Organic. About at least 95% of the ingredients must be certified organic. The remaining up to 5% can be approved non-organic ingredients if organic versions are not commercially available. Made with organic. At least 70% of the ingredients must be organic. Less than 70% organic. May identify specific ingredients in the ingredient that lists but cannot claim to be organic. So see, a lot of times, like for example, a cereal that is 75% organic can say made with organic oats, but cannot simply be labeled organic. Organic oatmeal with organic oats, raisins, and cinnamon that is 97% organic can be labeled organic. A snack that is 50% organic cannot make an overall organic claim, though it can identify which individual ingredients are organic. So if you see a food labeled simply organic in the US, it must contain at least 95% certified organic ingredients, according to the USDA. Okay, so, but that's still kind of suspicious because we used to shop at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and we found out a lot of shit is not as organic as they say they are. And another thing, which is minor, but it has to do with what you're putting in your body, guys. Did you know a lot of these tea companies, the teas are sprayed with pesticides, and the tea bags that they use, which are really bad, guys. It's really bad, trust me. This shit's bad. Okay? So, trust me, I check a lot of shit. Okay? I check a lot of things. But even the tea bags that they use can cause, the stuff that they have can cause cancer in the tea bags because they don't want the tea bag to break open when you make it hot in hot water. So my recommendation to you is to look up the organic tea bag tea companies, right? And buy loose tea and then put it in a metal strainer and dip it. That is the best thing you can do for your teas. That's what we're going to do. We're looking at companies that we don't, no Twinnings, no Lipton, no Celestial Seasonings, no Tazo. I can't even go to Starbucks anymore and get my yuzu tea that I used to get because I don't trust that now. See, just trust me, guys. You got to get on board with looking at every single thing you put in your mouth. And you need to start by not calling your kitchen a kitchen. You need to call it a nutrition center. My house is downstairs is an open floor plan. We have rooms sectioned off, but the main area we hang out in, a living, dining room, kitchen area, is an open floor. We have an island kitchen. So when my wife and I are in the kitchen cooking, we call that our nutrition center. We can talk to the guests all the way in the living room or in the dining room. The guests are right there with us. They see us cooking. They see us preparing food, talking. Me, I have a tendency, when I prepare food, once in a while I'll drink a little small glass of wine as I'm preparing the foods. But get serious about your nutrition center. Look in your cabinets, look in your refrigerator, and throw away all the shit you don't need. Check everything for your children. For your children. Now, some may be up here saying, well, hey, man, I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I got a mouth to feed. But there's a lot of things that you can give your children that don't cost much. For example, you can start off by giving them chickpeas. Instead of rice, substitute that rice for chickpeas or for mixed beans. My wife does that for me. So she knows I'm not going to eat rice. My wife does not want to give up her rice. My children, they eat less rice than they used to. But me, I don't eat any rice at all. So she will say, well, okay, but babe, what you want, chickpeas with this? Or you want mixed beans? I'll say, oh, give me chickpeas tonight. See? Or none at all. But what that does is because what rice does in your body is once it gets in your body, when you're trying to control your blood sugar, it basically turns into sugar. Now it's a blood sugar spike. I don't need that shit. Okay? So I don't need it. But, in Japan, rice is a staple food. And I'm having a hard time convincing Japanese that it always wasn't. Because rice was eaten by just rich people in the past, about 150 years ago. Poor people didn't eat rice. They ate potatoes and other things. But they didn't eat rice. Now everybody in Japan, they can't live without rice. They eat rice 3 times a day. But yet, Japanese are also experiencing diabetes. They also have a diabetes problem. My wife doesn't, but there's Japanese that has diabetes. I knew a former neighbor of mine that lived in the part of the town we lived in before we built our home. And he was going to the gym. He was doing his laps every day. I knew who they were because we'd spoken to all the neighbors. And the wife would tell me he had to go do a diet. He's on a kidney dialysis machine. He's got to go twice a week, right? Now let me tell you something about the kidney dialysis machine. What that means. Okay, so because that's bad, guys. That is bad. Okay. So and I knew a uncle-in-law that was also on the kidney dialysis machine too. So it's a medical device that performs some of the filtering work normally done by healthy kidneys. It is used when the kidneys can no longer adequately remove waste products and excess fluid from the blood. Now, so what it removes urea, creatine, excess potassium, excess phosphorus, extra fluid. So these guys got to go to, they say usually a typical schedule is like 3 sessions per week, 3 to 5 hours per session. Some people use dialysis machines which may involve shorter or more frequent treatments. So It cannot replace the kidney functions. Now, who needs it? End-stage kidney disease, which is kidney failure. Severe acute kidney injury that is expected to recover. Dangerous complications. So, for many people with permanent kidney failure, dialysis is a long-term treatment unless they receive a kidney transplant. Some individuals with acute kidney injury only need dialysis temporarily. Now, how long? That's the thing, because I think she told me he can only be on it 10 years. How long can you be on a dialysis? Okay. Okay, let me get this in here. Okay, because this is important. What I like about Chappie, you ain't got to ask questions, put a question mark in there. So they said there's no fixed time limit for how long. Some people are on dialysis for only a few weeks, while others have lived on it for 20, 30, or even 40 years. Okay, so she told me that her husband could only be on it for 10 years. He's in his 70s, so I guess he's got another 6 or 7 years left on it. Still, that's something that you do not want to get on, because now you got to go to the hospital every week to get the shit done. And in America, as you know, Medicare is not cheap. Okay? So, like I said, you need to look at your health. My thing is this. I know I've been going all over the place today with this because I'm starting to get into being myself more. This is my second video. I tried to put another video up, but okay, it didn't work out. But it's okay. I'm so passionate about what we put in our bodies. I'm so passionate about African health. That's what I'm calling it. Because I no longer live in America. So I think of myself, because I am an African living in Japan. Yes, my nationality, my passport is American. I was born in America. But I no longer live in America. I will never live in America again. I'm permanently here in Japan. Home built, I'm here. So my thing is this. As an African, we need to look at our health. And what we need to start separating ourselves from is the Eurocentric attitude that we have on life. And that is why when I was searching, and I'm going to put the links up here for these channels, when I was searching for YouTube channels for my young daughter to look at, I did not want anything on that, okay? You know? Oh, excuse me, just a moment, but Daddy's doing a video right now, okay? I'll be downstairs, okay? Thank you. I'll be right there. Sorry, guys. I didn't want my daughter in my video because, you know, she's a small child, and in Japan, we're very serious and sensitive about our children being in videos. But she happened to come into Daddy's office. This is my office here. Anyway, I'm sorry. Excuse me. So what I'm saying is this. You have to get into feeding your children right. Look at it as a nutrition center. Did you know in America, because Japan is so much better, children in school, because my son was going to school in America till 4th grade, they eat the crappiest food. We would never let our son eat at school. My wife was always preparing his meals because the food in school is horrible. But did you know in Japan, they are so nutritious. Their food is so healthy in their schools in Japan. And the children will even help prepare the foods. See, they take that so serious in Japan. Yeah, they're eating the rice. Yeah, they're putting the potatoes here. But still, it's very nutritious. None of this, you know, squeezy shit that they eat in the States, or no, these things you packaging, you open and microwave it and throw it at the kids. No, this is some serious eating in Japan. I don't know how they do it in Africa. Okay, just a moment. I'll be down. Okay, I'll be right down. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how they do it in Africa, but I know that if you know how they do it in Africa, please put your comments in here and tell me how does the school lunch programs work in Africa. Okay. Now, here's another thing I was going to say. The reason why I started really scrutinizing these channels, because I don't want Eurocentric black videos on my YouTube channel for my daughter to watch. Because unfortunately, a lot of black people in America and Europe are Eurocentric. They're just Eurocentric. And I, like myself, I once was. I thought everything Eurocentric was the right way to do stuff. And I thought everybody else, the way they did things was kind of unorthodox. I never thought that way about Japan, of course, but you know what I'm saying? But certain things you just think is right. And like I said, once again, I want to say this. I'm not knocking European culture. I am pro-African. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to educate our children on nutrition. We need to educate our beautiful young children. My daughter is beautiful. My son is beautiful. My son shaved all his hair off, but he had beautiful drop curls. My daughter's drop curls are tighter like my hair was. And she's, she walks around all day with her hair just out, and it's beautiful. Some people say, oh, she's a nappy-headed girl. No, it's African hair is beautiful. We have beautiful hair. And don't let anybody tell you that. Black is beautiful. And a lot of people don't look at themselves that way. That's why you have a lot of people in America walking around wearing spandex with purple hair, and they got wigs on, Indian hair in cuts and pieces and shit tied to their hair. I'm sorry, but if you're the ladies that like that, I don't like it. I told you guys, I'm not going to be up here. I'm telling you the truth about my own. It's my opinion, but that's the way I feel. I love the natural black hair. It's beautiful. Our hair grows out. It doesn't grow down because we're from hot climates. So when it rains, when it's wet, our hair will tend to drop. When it's dry, our hair rises naturally up and down. I know my wife has straight hair. She's Japanese. And trust me, she knows how difficult it is to take care of her hair because it's just straight. It just hangs down straight no matter what. Because the climate that they come from, they need it to be like that. But African hair is from a hot climate. So tell your children, when they walk around the house, if their hair is nappy, let it be nappy because it's beautiful. It's beautiful hair. And when you wash it, you teach them how to wash their hair to where it's soft. When they finish washing it, you put light, like you find organic oils or whatnot to put in their hair. And guys, use organic lotions on your body, organic skincare products. What I use on my skin, I use organic, unprocessed, extra virgin coconut oil. Simple coconut oil, yes. I use that. After my shower, I get out, I pour it, I use it on my wife and I use natural face lotions and cleansers and whatnot. And I use coconut oil on my skin. I use it on my skin all the time. It's perfect. And you know what? Yesterday, I didn't use any coconut oil. And look at how my skin isn't dry or nothing. And another thing, when you get control of your diabetes, because contrary to the bullshit that they're going to tell you in the States, diabetes is reversible. It is reversible. You can reverse that shit because last year, when I did my annual physical, my A1C was a 5.5, which is normal. It was normal. And I'm expecting that to be, my clinic said I'm 6.0. At the time, I was a 5.5. I'm going to believe the healthcare center. Where I got my health check, because I think my clinic, they're spiking the numbers a little bit. So I wasn't even pre-diabetic last year. And I'm expecting my numbers to get back to that. So see, it is reversible. And when it reverses, trust me, you got to let your gut do the work. When you start putting better foods in your body, your gut starts to manage itself better. And it's because, believe it or not, your gut has a brain too. They don't want you to know about that. Look, the sugar companies, the flour companies, the soda companies, they don't want you to know how beautiful your body is and how your body can take care of itself. They don't want you to know that. They want you to keep eating all this shit, drinking all this bullshit that will mess up your body. And another thing I want to say here, because I know this is going over, and I'm going to end this soon, guys. I'm just passionate about this. Another thing I want to say is black people, Africans, we can live a long life. I have a lot of people in my family that are well into their 90s, contrary to the bullshit when they say the average black man dies at 52. That's because you shooting half of us and feeding us bullshit in America. But we can live a long, healthy life. If you are in Africa and you are going to the stores and you are buying the processed European sugary snacks and American sugary snacks, stop eating that shit. It's not good for you. Get to know your own way of eating in your country that has been healthy for years, for centuries. Get to know that way. Get back to that way. I'm going to go to Africa next year. And when I walk down the street, I go in the market, and you being from the West, oh my God, these markets are dirty, this, that, the other. They're not dirty like you think. Yo, look at the food spoiled. It's spoiled because if you find spoiled food, because it's organic. They're not processing this shit like they do in the States. You buy a loaf of bread that lasts for years or months. I don't want bread that lasts for months. I want to eat it, and if a couple of days, if I don't freeze it, if it gets spoiled, then that's because it was natural. That's the way things got to be, guys. You have to educate your children. If you want to start getting the beauty back, start by taking care of your beautiful children so they can grow up beautiful, and when they get older, they're going to still be beautiful, and they're going to be beautiful for a long time. That way, your children will eat healthy all the time. And you know what it does? When you start to educate your children about healthy eating and being aware of what goes in their bodies, guess what they won't put in their bodies when they get of age and they get around people that want them to put shit in their bodies? They won't put drugs in their body because they will understand what they do. Sugar is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. These items, these bad processed foods, they're all drugs, guys. Coca-Cola is a drug. 7-Up is a drug. Processed bread is a drug. Flours, drugs. Pies, drugs. Cookies, drugs. Candies, drug. Drug up. That's what they are. So you need to understand these things. And then you will start to see your beautiful skin. Because when you eat right, your skin gets beautiful. When you put on organic lotions on your body, because your skin is the largest organ on your body, guys. Your skin is the largest organ. And if you poison your skin, it's going to go and it's going to poison your bodies inside. That's what it's going to do. And you're killing yourself. Watch your diet. Maintain self-control. I know you can't just shut everything off overnight. You're not going to, I like eating that. I'm eating my pork chop, my potatoes. Did you know that steak and potatoes together is the worst thing you can do? The hamburger fries is the worst thing you can eat together. The worst thing you can eat. It just does everything in your body that you don't need to happen to your body. And did you also know that a lot of us are lactose intolerant? Our bodies are different in many ways than the Europeans. We have better organs. We have better bodies when we take care of ourselves. We do. And that's why you got people in some parts of the world kidnapping us and stealing our organs. Black, my brothers and sisters, you gotta know how beautiful you really are. Do not let anyone tell you you're not beautiful. I tell my children they're beautiful all the time. My daughter, like I said, she walks around playing with her nappy hair in the house because before she goes out, my wife will get her hair all hooked up. But while she's running around with her nappy hair, I look at her and say, look at your beautiful hair. Look at your little beautiful self. When I was in the States, white people didn't want to hear me say that to my daughter. But I tell her, look at your beautiful self. Look at you got beautiful hair. Look at you. I tell her how much a beautiful little girl she is. Because she is. And our children are beautiful. Black is beautiful, my brothers and sisters. So I'm going to leave it at that. This is Akintune Kumasi here at the Pan-African Exchange. I'm getting passionate. I'm so passionate about being up here now, about having this channel, because I can talk to my brothers and sisters, and I can give you some advice, and I can learn from you too. But today, the most important thing you have to focus on is health, especially health for your children. This is Akintune Kumasi, the Pan-African Exchange. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.